The storm of the century.
Are we all gonna die?
And the opportunity.
We don't want the money!
Of a lifetime.
But you're the sheriff! And the what?
Morgan Freeman, Christian Slater. Rated R. Starts Friday, January 16th.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
I know that, you had the very wholesome upbringing.
Jesus.
No, I'm just saying, like, you did.
Uh-huh.
What was the first concert you went to?
If we're going by the standard of the actual concert, first concert I went to, it would have been Aaron Carter at Kings Island when I was like 6 or 7.
Okay.
If we're going by the first concert that I actually confirm and will actually stand abide to the first concert, that would have been Alice Cooper.
How old?
I would have saw Alice when I was, think here for a second, probably like 13. I think 13 is when I saw Alice Cooper.
That's a little young to see Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
It's so funny because my dad would have loved more than anything in the world if I had wanted to see Alice Cooper live.
That makes sense, yeah.
But no. My first concert, 16 years old, Buckethead.
I can believe that.
At Bogart's in Cincinnati. And my dad bought the ticket as a gift for my, I think, 17th birthday or 15th birthday. One of those. I can't remember exactly.
My early concerts included, so the first one was like I said, Alice Cooper, which Mom took me to. Fraze Pavilion was where I went for a lot of them. So that's where I saw Huey Lewis in the News. That's where I saw Chris Christopherson. That's where I saw, I think ZZ Top was, I think this is my first time seeing ZZ Top was it was definitely at Fraze because it was raining and we were in the nosebleeds. And then I saw Styx at the county fair one time.
This is so wholesome.
I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I've seen Alice 10 times. I know that much. Like he's the one that I've seen multiple times. I've seen Stone Sour a couple times because I won tickets to one show. I've seen Avenged Sevenfold a couple times. But as far as like repeats, I will always go and see Alice for the most part. You
probably have seen Alice Cooper more times than I've been to concerts.
Yeah, I actually would believe that.
I depending on how you define concert.
Yeah.
Because I consider concert different than going to a show.
Going to a show...
A show is like I played shows.
Yeah.
And went to my friends' shows around town.
Going to a show is definitely different than a concert. Like I would consider like X-Fest, of course, being a concert because it's a day of concerts.
I would consider it's a concert if you have to pay Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
Basically.
That's fair.
Or Live Nation or whatever the balls it is now.
Or if the merch is like 40 and up.
Well, now it really is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've probably been to 4.
Did I tell you about the time that we were at the Alice Cooper show at the Fraze? This would have been probably like my 3rd or 4th time seeing him, and there was a band that opened up for him called Ven Rez, which is still, I think, an active band to this day. And I remember, I may have even said this on the show, I can't remember, but I remember like we were walking to our seats from like coming from concessions, and I was like, Mom, there's Andy Dick. And she's like, that's not Andy Dick. And then halfway through Alice's show, we looked over to the side where Ven Rez was partying on the side of the stage, and there was Andy Dick because they were he was a friend of the band Ven Rez.
Where was this?
Fraze Pavilion.
I thought you said Fraze, but I was that's interesting.
Yeah, Andy Dick was there.
Oh, I guarantee. Of course he was.
Yeah.
Wiley's Jokers Comedy Club. Because what year would this have been? How old have you been?
Would have been 2000. Like it would have been 08, 09.
Yeah, so I mean, he was probably there for Wiley's.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I can't remember when Joker's closed.
I know he was because he was friends with the lead singer of Ven Rez. I knew that much because that's what we figured out. But yeah, it was weird seeing him at the show.
Well, there are lots, especially because we had Wiley's for so long and Joker's, which was
Jokers.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing it
I
right.
remember it so well.
Jokers.
We got
open
hit by a
tonight.
tornado.
Yeah, you did.
But between those two comedy clubs, Wiley's had the reputation of being local and where people like Dave Chappelle started, and or not started, but like grew a lot. A lot of people came through Wiley's.
Yeah.
But Jokers was a more corporate comedy club, so they got touring acts like crazy as well.
Oh yeah,
because it was Jokers.
I feel like I went to Jokers once, but I cannot for the life of me remember why I was there. But I feel like I was there at least once. But I have no recollection of why.
Are you sure it wasn't Wiley's?
No, because I know Wiley's because we shot there for.
Yeah. And I went there to see Brent Bowser perform.
Yeah.
I went there to see
My parents
Mike
have
Canistero
seen
perform.
a couple Bob and Tom acts there too. So yeah.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Wiley's.
Rest in peace, Wiley's and Jokers.
So well, yeah. I mean, Jokers. It sucked that they closed.
Yeah.
They basically closed because the Funny Bone was opening, which is another kind of corporate comedy.
Where is
club.
Funny Bone?
The Green.
Is it the Green? Okay, it is at the Green. Yeah, that's
I
right.
saw Mick Foley do stand up there once.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Which was really
his stand up's really
awesome.
good.
My favorite thing about his show was that he warned us that the show was relatively family friendly, but in the act there is one F-bomb.
Yeah.
So he wanted to make sure everybody was aware.
Yeah.
So then he does his thing. He talks for an hour and 20 minutes. He's really funny, really engaged. And then he goes, "Thank you all so much." And then everybody applauds. And he goes, "Oh, fuck." And then he leaves. It was so good.
It's pretty solid.
No, he's truly really funny.
It's funny. I have actually not really seen a lot of comedy acts. I've seen concerts more than I have comedy acts. I've seen Jason Mewes. I saw him do a live thing out Columbus area. I've seen actually Kevin Smith speak one time as well.
Yeah, which I wouldn't call that stand up.
No,
I mean
Mewes was stand up.
Mick Foley is quasi stand up, more storyteller.
Yeah.
I mean he's very very funny, but it's just kind of different.
Yeah, Mewes
thing.
was stand up. Kevin, I mean anybody that listens to Kevin's podcast or has seen his evening with Kevin Smith knows it's just him with a
I
mic.
like his evenings with Kevin Smith more than I like his movies.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
I find him very funny, very insightful. So, but that all to say, concerts they're not a massive part of my life. They're expensive and
they've gotten way expensive. Yeah.
Well, they've always been expensive.
They've always been expensive. Well, I mean, they have and they haven't. It's like, because like, I mean, a ticket for X Fest was like $35 back in the day.
That's expensive.
But that was an entire fucking day.
For where I came from, that was a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like go to Kings Island.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're going to spend that money, you may as well go to like Kings Island or something.
I mean, probably the most expensive was taking my mom to see Elton John. Well, yeah, no, Elton John was expensive because those were, it was either Elton John or Phil Collins, because Phil Collins and Elton John both were like $200 tickets.
Well, and I believe that.
Well, Phil Collins, I'm happy I paid the money because that he's done now. Like, I mean, he's not doing any more shows. And I mean, he even sat 90% of the concert and stood up for 2 songs.
I mean, what do you know?
Oh, I mean, he had just had knee surgery.
So, well, yeah. And I mean, Mick Foley stood the whole performance, but then sat the entire meet and greet. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, the poor guy's knees.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff. That was apparently, he's gotten a replacement since then. So that was when he was still on his OEM parts, which had been well used. The funny thing is, growing up, what I was most obsessed with was pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And I went to a million wrestling shows because I got into the crew.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So I was seeing wrestling shows for free every week.
Yeah.
We would do occasionally a big show out at the Grand Victoria Casino, and I would get comp tickets. We weren't allowed to film those shows because they would have WWE stars as a gift.
Yeah.
Like we got one year we had Kane, one year we had Chris Benoit, one year we had Booker T. We would always get a Big Show. We had Big Show one year. And because of that, we couldn't film it. We weren't allowed to put that on TV or anything.
Yeah.
But because I worked dutifully, I would be given some comp tickets.
There you go.
So, because growing up, if a show wasn't like $5, it just wasn't going to happen.
I get that.
I mean, there were occasional differences.
It's like, to piggyback off of that, it's like you were the one who showed me that I could actually go to the movies for less than, $10 when I had moved back to Troy.
Really? You didn't know about discount?
No, I mean, like that was the thing was I went, I didn't go to the theater very often because when I moved away for college and everything, I was by Deerfield and all those expensive ass theaters and AMC and whatnot.
Sure.
So I kind of fell out of the movies at that point, and then it was like when you and I started doing Tuesdays and matinee days, I was just like, oh shit, I actually can keep up on these new movies. So I mean, no, I feel that entirely.
Well, I didn't go to the movies more than once a year until like 2012.
Yeah.
That's when I started going quite a bit. And then when I became self-employed, there was a while there where I like lived at the movie theater.
I get that.
I was never not there. I was almost always at opening shows. Before I had podcasts to manage, there were two things that were true. Number one, I had a lot more free time. And number two, I did not have much money at all. So that was quite a trade.
I get that.
But it used to be like, I mean, if I was stuck at home working on some project and all of a sudden I was like, I'm at an impasse. And then I'd look at my watch and be like, I wonder if anything's playing at 12:45. And I would just go and watch whatever it was showing.
Well, it's like I mean, we've talked about it before. I miss the Danbury Dollar Saver because it's like now I feel like I would absolutely take way more advantage of it than I did back then. Because I miss the days of being like, oh, I can go rent Gone Girl or I can just go see it in the big screen. Because like they would have that time there almost.
It didn't happen all the time that it would be at home and at Danbury.
Yeah.
But it definitely happened here and there.
Yeah.
But you would also have opportunities like, especially around Oscar season, if a movie got a ton of nominations, it would be at Danbury, which was the second run theater. And no, I spent a lot of time at Danbury. And at one point, a friend of mine from high school's little brother was running day shift, and they never let me pay for a ticket. I mean, granted, the ticket was $3, $1.50 on Tuesday or $1.75. So it wasn't the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah.
I'd buy some popcorn and stuff like that. But yeah, so I mean, it got to a point where I could go there and know if it was before 4 o'clock, I wasn't paying anything anyway. And I had a great time watching a bunch of movies there. Yeah, I definitely miss Danbury.
I feel like I would go to our local theater more in Piqua if I just liked those seats, but I'm so spoiled by where we go for our recliners and everything because they don't have the recliners. Last I checked, they don't have them at Piqua still.
That's the Piqua Cinemark?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because the last thing I saw there was the Batman, which was 3 hours in a chair that didn't recline and or move.
You know how you can check if they've switched?
Check with my friends.
Oh, I mean, or you could just open up your app and act like you're going to buy a ticket, and if it lets you pick a seat.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense.
Because the Green's fully converted to these really weird chairs that try to steal everything in your pockets.
Yep.
Yeah, because instead of just leaning back, they lean back and push your butt upward. So the first time I took Rachel there, like as soon as she sat down, I was like, she was about to recline. I was like, take everything out of your pockets, just put it on the chair next to you or in the cup holder. And she was like, huh? And I was like, trust me. And then when we pulled the seats back, she was like, oh man, I was like, everything falls out of your pockets. Well, then you got
the tray that slides over you too, which I love.
Yeah, you would. I mean, it's nice because then you could eat a full spaghetti and meatballs dinner while you're watching the movie.
I may or may not have eaten an entire thing of chicken wings last time I went to the Green.
I mean, their chicken wings are actually surprisingly good.
They're really good.
But the reason I bring all this up is I just recently went to a concert.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, I saw Buckethead at Bogart's 20 some years later. And I was looking forward to it, but I'm kind of in a spot right now where work is very demanding and I have a lot of responsibilities work-wise. I'm dealing with my taxes right now, which is always a friggin' nightmare. Just you folks out there who number one, get a return. And number two, whose taxes are as easy as oftentimes taking a photograph of your W-2.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're very
lucky.
Especially when you work in the field I work in. Like if you make a movie, you're talking about hundreds of itemized deductions.
Yeah.
Hundreds. And some of them are like $6 here, $12 there, $15 here, $4 there. You know, and then there's like, and that's $500 and that's $1,000. But like all those little items, you have to track them because the IRS doesn't give a fuck about you.
Yeah.
They just want you to pay them. They're like the mafia. Fuck you, pay me. Fuck you, pay me. So I remember one time my mother helps me do my taxes and file them because she's very, very good at it. And at one point I had said like, I don't know if I should deduct that, like, whatever. And my mom was like, don't cut the IRS a break because they'll never cut you a break in your entire life. So if that can be deducted and it makes sense, deduct it. And it's always hard because I work in the field that I'm very interested in. it is weird because for years of my life, the things I'm buying for work were things I bought for hobbies.
Yeah.
So I remember one time being like, it feels weird writing this camera off. And my mother was like, what do you do for a living? And I was like, I make movies. And she's like, how would it go without a camera? And I'd be like, couldn't. And she was like, deduct that fucking expense because it's a big expense.
Well, I mean, that was when we were in college. We had a teacher that showed us basically that if you had anything relating to your field, whether it was even a streaming service or if like you had, I mean, given that's a gray area,
you want to be careful with that stuff.
But that was like shown to us. It was just like if you have those things for your job in a sense, then yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't write that stuff off because it gets hairy.
Oh yeah.
Just like legally, I can't actually write off how much of my house I use for work.
Yeah.
Because they just don't allow that much.
No.
Like,
unless you get Ben Affleck in The Accountant.
Well,
I love that scene.
That's a wonderful scene.
Such a good scene.
Oh, I can't wait for part 2.
I know.
But so my point is just that the reason I brought this up, the reason I said like, what's the first concert you ever went to is because I think you probably have a slightly more relatable like musical experience to like the people who are listening to the show.
I can see that. Yeah.
I mean, your music taste, it goes a little older, but you know, like I said, my dad would have loved if I had listened to the music you were into when you were a kid.
As I had to remind you recently, I don't have an FM radio in my car, so I can't listen to anything new music, at least that's like out on the airwaves, unless I pull up my Apple.
That's weird because most of us just pretend we don't have an FM radio.
Yeah, I know, right?
No, I mean, we're literally talking on one of the most disruptive things to radio in the world. We're on a podcast, baby.
Exactly.
But that all being said, there's a lot that's said about Buckethead. Some people don't get it. Some people think, oh, he's cool, but like all he does is shred or his music's too whatever. I have always found Buckethead's music to be highly emotional. There's no lyrics generally, and he never sings. He plays. And I got into Buckethead when I was about 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah.
So I was listening to his music ad nauseum all the time. I used to joke that, because it's true, that friends would not let me bring CDs to parties or in the car because I'd always bring some really weird Buckethead.
Weird shit, yeah.
So when I saw it for the first time, it was amazing. Seeing Buckethead perform, I had an amazing time. It was the first concert I ever went to. I was very nervous. I was afraid to try and get up close to the stage because I just didn't understand anything. And it was in the middle of him being in Guns N' Roses, so he was relatively known.
Yeah.
It was during Guns N' Roses, but before Jordan came out on Guitar Hero.
Okay.
So he did play Jordan because that was actually a concert-only song, which they then started. He recorded for Guitar Hero. So anyway, so we go down there and we go to the show, and I'm like totally distracted. I'm just kind of like, oh, this is cool, but like, God, I mean, it's hard to take this time away from work.
Yeah,
it was a Thursday night, and often Thursdays are kind of my crunch day because I always try to take Friday night off to hang out with my friends.
Understandable,
and occasionally you if you're,
if I make it,
if you're my friend that day. But we get there. And yeah, I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay. And then like the lights go down and I'm like, cool. And then Buckethead comes out and I'm like, this is really cool. It's been a while since I sat and really listened to Buckethead. So then they start doing, intros. Bootsy Collins' wife, Peppermint Patty, came out and did the intro, which was really cool. I was so sad Bootsy wasn't there though. The first time I saw Buckethead, Bootsy had a cold, so he didn't perform and I ran into him in the bathroom.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Sounds just like he does on his records. Hey there. Hey, Baba. Enjoy the show. But he started playing a song and I was like, oh my God. But then the way Buckethead performs is it's almost a medley.
Yeah.
You get a lot of songs in one song and he plays nonstop for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
He slowed it down and played Big Sur Moon from his album Colma, which I think is his his first most emotional album. And I just started sobbing. Like I couldn't even help it. I mean, tears were pouring out of my eyes. And I just remembered all the times I'd listened to that song and got something from it,
Yeah.
Cause I'm telling you, it was from little kid.
Yeah.
And I was just like, holy crap. And then throughout the night, there were multiple times he would do a song and I'd start crying because I'd be like, oh my God, I love that song. I can't believe he's playing it right now. And I've never really had that because most of the music I grew up with that meant a lot to me was very out of step.
Yeah.
In multiple ways, either by being very underground or by being really old. Like I was into Body Count in 1999. They had not been a band at that point for like 4 years.
The metal kid at my school got me into Body Count because I think it was a Wasp song that I had posted, and he was just like, "You should listen to Cop Killer by Body Count," and I was like, "I should."
Well, the funnest part about that first Buckethead concert was I took my buddy Andy Kopp.
Yeah.
And it was wild taking him because he was the person who introduced me to Body Count, to Oingo Boingo, Mr. Bungle,
Public Enemy.
I was into hip hop before him for the most part. Body Count I just never heard of.
Yeah.
I knew Ice-T, but I'd never heard of Body Count. But he'd introduced me to all these wacky outsider bands. I actually found KMFDM before I met him, but that was thanks to the Mortal Kombat soundtrack, which helped a lot of people discover a lot of interesting music.
Rammstein for me.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, most people found Typo Negative from Mortal Kombat.
I found Rammstein, I guess I had found Rammstein more so through Triple X because they opened the fucking movie for that matter.
And Du Hast Mesh was a gigantic hit.
Angle was the first one I heard, and that was off the Mortal Kombat Annihilation soundtrack.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Well, so anyway, very long, silly story short, like, I was really into Buckethead and Mojo Nixon and Oingo Boingo and Stuck Mojo, and like none of those bands were touring, and if they were, it was highly limited.
Oh yeah, it was local to their areas for the most part. Usually.
Yeah, well, you know what's funny? I could have seen Mojo Nixon friggin' every month.
Yeah,
if I had been old enough in 1998 when he was living in Cincinnati and performing at Canal Street all the time in Dayton.
Typo Negative was apparently performing in Dayton all the time too. In the late 90s, I want to say.
I know KMFDM played at the Pearl.
Yeah, I did hear that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So, or no, Switchblade Symphony. Anyway, I'm digressing too much. I always start with some digression. My point is, I have never been hit that hard by a level of personal nostalgia like that.
Yeah.
And it was really, it was a cool experience and I really enjoyed it. But it also was just like, wow.
Yeah.
I was not even like, if you had told me like, you're going to cry when Bucket plays Big Sur Moon, I would have been like, maybe. No.
Yeah.
The moment I heard the second riff, I was like, oh my God, I fucking love this song. Like I was so happy. So it was a great experience, and I promised myself I'm going to keep an eye out.
Yeah, you should.
Especially, for Buckethead. Yeah. I've tried to see Stuck Mojo a few times. I tried to see Mojo before he passed this time last year. I tried so hard, but he only plays in Texas.
And on that cruise, right?
Well, that was new.
Yeah.
That was only 2 years old.
Okay.
I think, or maybe 4, something like that. But he would play at South by Southwest with the Toad Lickers because his piano player owns the Continental Club, I think is what it's called. One of the big venues in Austin.
Yeah.
He's the owner of it. So the Toad Lickers would play there.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I kept telling myself, like, one of these days, I'm just going to pilgrimage out there just for that. And unfortunately, I could not. But now I'm like, man, I know Buckethead's come to like Columbus and stuff, and I've missed him. So I'm like, nah, I'm going to keep my eye open for that from now on. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because, like, it's just, the stuff I was into, it's just like, Oingo Boingo's not going to friggin' play,
I mean, Danny played, was it Coachella? I think he played Coachella a year ago. Yeah. And that's like the latest.
Well, that's what I mean. And like, I'm not going to go through Coachella.
Well, you can watch it online. I did.
Yeah. But yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
So, but if I ever got to see Stuck Mojo live, I would lose my shit.
No, I feel you.
It's very rare that their original lineup ever plays.
I feel you on that.
So I don't know. My point is, it was just a cool experience I wasn't expecting. But speaking of cool experiences I was expecting, we just got back from seeing Working Man.
We did.
And I was shocked you didn't like it.
Yeah, you're full of shit. You're real full of shit. No, I had a bad day at work today. I'm not going to get into it, but basically we had a lot of technical difficulties that I could not do anything about because I had to get information back from somebody who was not responding back to me. I digress. I was looking forward to this all fucking day. And Working Man is done by David Ayer, who did Beekeeper. It's written by Ayer, Chuck Dixon, and Sylvester Stallone.
Chuck Dixon wrote the novel.
Yeah, Chuck Dixon wrote the novel. Yeah, Sylvester Stallone and David Ayer wrote the screenplay, though, and it is literally Jason Statham's Taken. It is and it isn't.
I mean, it's not his daughter.
It's not his daughter,
No.
but he is asked to go retrieve his friend's daughter, and then he fights Russians and bikers, and I mean, the movie was everything I wanted out of it today.
I could agree with that.
Yeah. Because I mean, we previous episode we did Beekeeper because last year that just knocked our dicks in the dirt because that movie was just so wild. And Working Man is
Beekeeper, I expected good and fun, but not that good and fun.
Working Man, I'm already ready to go watch it again, to be honest.
Jeez.
Oh, no, I really liked it. Because, I mean, I told you this off mic, but it's like, I've been in and out with Statham because I was really, the first movie of his I remember seeing was Cellular, and he played the villain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then shortly after that was Transporter. Actually, Transporter was before that technically, but yeah. But no, he was great in Cellular, and then from there we got into Crank, and then we got into The Expendables, and then we got into his remake of The Mechanic, which is a Charles Bronson film originally.
The way I first saw Crank was I was with my buddy Josh Petrino out in Jersey when I lived out there.
Yeah.
And he mentioned, and like, they use some of those cameras on Crank. We were talking about filmmaking stuff. And I was like, oh yeah. And he was like, have you seen Crank and Crank 2? And I was like, no. And he was like, really? And I was like, I haven't. And I'm not joking.
Yeah.
We're on Long Beach Island.
Yeah.
We get in the car and drive across the bridge back to the mainland to a Hollywood Video and found them both on DVD.
There you go.
And brought them back. And he was like, I'm gonna order some pizza.
You basically had your Hot Fuzz moment. Point Break or Bad Boys 2? Oh, which one do you like? No, which one are we watching first?
Yeah, it wasn't far off, and I was blown away by Crank.
Yeah.
So, but it also made me like Jason Statham a lot because he's, all of the action guys that have lasted have shown that they have a capacity for humor, a capacity for self-deprecation.
Yeah.
All of that. Statham, it's like another level.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he can be funny without even winking.
Well, it's like when I had seen Crank and Crank 2, I went back then to his Guy Ritchie stuff, which is like his first stuff. So Lock, Stock, 2 Smoking Barrels, Snatch. I mean, he's been in a lot of Ritchie's films at this point. But The Bank Job was one of his movies, which wasn't a Guy Ritchie film. But The Bank Job was probably one of his best movies, in my opinion, of all time, next to like Wrath of Man. And it's just a straight up crime drama. Like, it's not like even an action movie as much as it's just a straight up criminal story. And he's really good in it.
I believe it. I mean, he's good. And I think though, what put the nail in the coffin of me ever having a problem with Jason Statham was Paul Feig's Spy.
Spy is good.
Where he's just this ridiculous super spy.
Yeah.
He's a perfect foil to Melissa McCarthy. I mean, a perfect foil.
No, he's great.
And his stories was like, jumped out of an airplane, used my own arm to, dislocated my arm and beat a man to death with it. He's just like, and she's like, how do you have legs again though?
Yeah.
And he'd be like, I top secret. It was so.
It's just him and his delivery that make it so much. I mean, because this is essentially the same team writing wise for Homefront. Sylvester Stallone wrote Homefront.
I love Homefront.
And that was another one that I cannot recommend enough. That's really, really good.
Yeah, I cried in the theater because, well, not only is the movie emotional, but because that was within a year of his losing his son. And the movie is it's so clear to me he drew from that, which is what a good artist does.
Yeah.
But it's also like, all I could think was like, my God, you lose your son and then you write a blockbuster screenplay about fighting every villain imaginable to protect your child.
Yeah. And then you do Rambo Last Blood, which is just like, let's just do a double gut punch.
Well, that was a million gut punches. Yeah.
But yeah, Working Man, I cannot recommend enough. It's so much fun. It's insane. It's under that 2-hour mark, just barely. But I was never bored. I was never looking at my watch, and I was absolutely loving the fact that it just went places that I didn't expect it to. Yeah,
I liked it a ton. I might like Beekeeper a little bit more. I may have liked the world building in that a little bit more.
Fair, yeah.
But it was a little bit, it was a lot more kind of ostentatious.
Yeah.
Is a good word for it. But overall, I really dug what they did with the Working Man.
Yeah.
I thought Statham, of course, super likable. I liked David Harbour's part, and it was a nice foil to him.
The ending just straight up felt like a video game. Like, it just felt like you were playing the level of a video game.
A lot of these action movies start to feel that way. John Wick is kind of a video game.
John Wick definitely went there. But like this one specifically, I was just like, I've played this level like on Army of Two.
I played this boss mode.
Yeah.
But No, but I really enjoyed it too. The honestly, both it and Beekeeper had a few hokey moments that don't ruin the movie at all.
No.
So I can't really complain because Beekeeper was just
it's
such
like
a hoot.
If I had to, like, I mean, you can't really compare the two movies, but like one thing that I was not the biggest fan of with Novocaine that we talked about last week was the villain wasn't bad, but the villain just kind of felt half baked to me a little bit.
Well, yeah, I do think that was on purpose though.
It probably was
because the main villain is not what you think he is at all. That's kind of we don't want to spoil it, but there's a great twist about what's going on.
Yeah, it's just he got very threatening at the end. But like as far as like his build-up scenes and whatnot, it was just kind of he felt a bit like he almost felt a little bit like the Cold Pursuit villain.
Yeah, but he was really scary during the heist.
The heist,
and it's easy to forget.
Was
that.
it him or was it his partner?
It was him.
It was him.
No,
okay.
that was what I was about to say.
Yeah,
he was in a costume.
Yeah.
He only pulled his beard down a little bit, but he was of the entire crew the kill happy one.
Yeah,
I remember what raised the stakes in Novocaine for me was when they revealed he was the mastermind.
Yeah.
Because I was like, God damn, the guy who just was like, oh, guess I gotta shoot you in the face. Guess I gotta kill the cops too. Like,
okay.
No,
see, I thought that was the first guy
bad.
he fought. That's why I was thinking.
No.
Okay.
That was just the first guy he could find.
Yeah, okay.
But no, the guy who was killing everybody was that's what makes it so scary. Because like, as we're seeing him act like a normal guy, it's like in the bank, you weren't a normal guy at all. You had no value for human life whatsoever.
And then he gets completely unhinged at the end as well. But yeah, Working Man, everything about it worked for me. It wasn't just the fact that I had a bad day today and watching Statham kick the living shit out of human traffickers.
I mean, you're allowed to have it elevated by having a bad day. And
no, I know. I'm not saying I'm not.
It's why Jackass #2 will always be my favorite Jackass movie.
This is the meanest one in my opinion.
Well, David, I saw it 3 hours after I watched my grandmother die in the hospital.
That's fair.
And I needed that. I needed that release so badly. I just
remember recent watch of it because I watched all of them when Jackass Forever came out recently. And I just remember on a recent watch of 2, I was just like, they're really just fucking with each other nonstop.
I'm not denying it. All I'm saying is that your mood
cathartic.
What I'm saying is your mood going in.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be like, and I had a really bad day, so it just hit great because I was ready to have a good time. You know, you're allowed.
Yeah,
is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So,
but I was more so saying that wasn't just the sole reason. But yes, no, absolutely.
So no, I do recommend everybody go if you like a popcorn slinging action movie.
Yeah,
you need to go and see A Working Man,
which has only been out for like a couple days as the time that you're hearing this. So
yeah. Well, by the time they're hearing it, because we saw it opening night.
So, with The Working Man out of the way, you know, the weather's been nice, but I'm worried that there might be something on the horizon soon.
Full disclosure.
Yeah.
I thought I was hitting a sound effect.
Oh, that would make sense.
And it didn't.
It didn't do anything. Well,
that's the wrong one. Yep. You know what? We're going to just stop the folly of me and move on.
Fair enough. We're talking about Hard Rain from 1998.
The label literally says thunder.
Yeah.
That was not...
that was a cash register.
Oh, thank you, doctor.
Yeah, no worries.
I appreciate
Well, you can get those two sounds confused sometimes.
I know.
Just be in line at the grocery store and be like, oh, she hear that thunder?
And just hear ching and be like, everybody down! This is the big one!
But yes, we are talking about Hard Rain from 1998. And I forgot how much I love this movie.
Really? Because when I was rewatching it earlier today with Rachel, you want to know what I described the film as?
Tell me.
I described it as a Dave DNA movie.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Because this is, and I mean this with no disrespect to Hard Rain.
Yeah.
This is one of the list of random ass movies that you just adore obscenely.
It's dumb. It really has several plot holes in it, but I don't mind it because it's so much fun.
Yeah. It's one of those where I'm like, Dave thinks the world of this one.
I get Hard Rain, Cool as Ice, Slaughter High, obviously.
I feel like those aren't nearly as random as Hard Rain. They're just certain movies that you just, I mean, I'm sure I have ones too.
Yeah.
But there are just certain movies that it's like Hard Rain, just Hard yes.
Oh, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
No, not at all. So 1 hour and 37 minutes, rated R, simply for violence, by the way. There's only one F-bomb, and you probably remember it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
IMDb synopsis says, the partner and nephew of an armored truck driver tries to prevent $3 million from being taken by a gang during a catastrophic flooding caused by a severe storm.
Yes. Every time I rewatch the movie, I don't know why, I always forget the setting is Midwest.
Yeah.
And my brain always tells me it's a hurricane.
It's a hurricane, yeah.
But it's not.
It's not.
It's flooding
Yeah.
and a levee breaking and stuff like that. It was funny when Rachel and I were watching it, she had mentioned like, there aren't a lot of dams, that we hear about here. And then I was like, well, we call them levees. And she went, oh yeah, we have a ton of levees.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, we have a ton of levees.
My synopsis says, when an Indiana town floods due to a massive rainstorm, the guard of an armored truck must fight off a violent gang out to steal the truck's haul.
Pretty solid. Yeah.
So now, moving into taglines.
Oh dear.
In the worst storm in living memory, one guard stands between 5 men and $3 million. Not bad, a little long.
Yeah, but that's not bad. Yeah, it's a little wordy.
Take a deep breath. You'll need it.
That's good. That's a good one.
Prepare for hard rain.
I'm assuming
Okay.
that the way that tagline was used was it just said prepare for, and then
Hard
the title
rain.
was, I think that's
I can see
good.
that. I can see
Because
that.
the title
Well,
is
normally
a
on
storm.
IMDb, if that's the case, though, they'll do just the ... and then it'll just not say the title.
it'd be weird to have the title of the film.
Hard rain. Prepare for hard rain.
Or prepare for hard rain. Hard rain.
And last, a simple plan. An instant fortune. Just add water. Not bad. Not bad. Not great.
I like that. It's clever. I do like that. I'm honestly just floored by that one because wow, that one's wild. I like that though.
So as of this recording, Hard Rain is currently available to stream on Pluto. It's also rentable on Prime and Fandango. And if you can get your hands on the Blu-ray, which is out of print now, you are lucky because it is a little pricey. So this is one that if you don't have it physically, you may want to check it out digitally. And if you haven't seen Hard Rain, stop this podcast right now and watch it.
Yeah, I would say it'd be a good idea.
Director on the film is Mikael Salomon, who gets his start as a DP in 1988 with Stealing Heaven, goes to shoot Torch Song Trilogy in 88, The Abyss in 89.
Oh, and it's funny because one of the first things I mentioned when I was rewatching it, because Rachel was just kind of hanging out while it was on, was The Abyss, about how they dealt with water in The Abyss.
Yeah.
And then, that would be a smart hire.
Goes on to shoot Arachnophobia in 1990, followed by Backdraft in 91, then does Far and Away in 92. It's not until 93 he gets his first directorial with Space Rangers, followed by A Far Off Place, Hard Rain in 98, goes on to shoot episodes of Nash Bridges, Aftershock, Earthquake in New York, Soul Survivor, the Fugitive TV series reboot in 2000,
Okay.
Glimpse of Hell in 2001, episodes of Alias, Band of Brothers, The Agency, Salem's Lot remake in 2004, The Grid, episodes of Rome, Fallen, Nightmares and Dreamscapes, the Andromeda Strain remake in 2008, Hawthorne, Camelot, Coma, Freezer in 2014, Falling Skies, Big Driver, Damien in 2016, Criminal Minds Beyond Borders, The Brave in 2017, Six, and last in 2020 was Instrument of Hope. So pretty decent resume there.
I would say so, yeah.
Writer on the film is Graham Yost, who gets his start writing in 1988 with The Chair. Then in 1989, writes for a little show called Hey Dude.
Oh, yeah, Graham Yost did start on Hey Dude. I remember reading that.
Followed by Herman's Head in 91, The Powers That Be in 92, Speed in 94, Broken Arrow in 96, Speed 2 Cruise Control in 97, Hard Rain in 98, From Earth to the Moon in 98, Mission to Mars, Band of Brothers, The Last Castle, Boomtown, The Pacific, Falling Skies, and then in 2010, he just happens to create a little series called Justified.
That's where I know the name Graham Yost from the most. Is the most.
Graham Yost, the most.
Yost, baby, is from Justified, which I consider one of the finest programs on television.
Immaculate. Then does Sneaky Pete in 2017.
Right.
Followed by The Grizzlies in 2018, and most recently Silo in 2023 on Netflix.
Silo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cinematographer on the film is Peter Menzies Jr. He gets his start as a DP on 1992 with White Sands. Followed by Posse, the Mario Van Peebles film in 93.
Nice.
Shoots The Getaway remake with Alec Baldwin in 94. Die Hard with a Vengeance in 1995. Then goes on to shoot Hayride to Hell in 95.
Okay.
A Time to Kill in 1996. Follows that up with Hard Rain. Then goes on to do The General's Daughter, The 13th Warrior, Disney's The Kid, Bless the Child, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, Kangaroo Jack, Man of the House, Miss Congeniality 2, Armed and Fabulous. Four Brothers, The Great Raid, When a Stranger Calls remake, Shooter with Mark Wahlberg, Traveler, The Incredible Hulk, Hawthorne, Clash of the Titans, Abduction with Taylor Lautner in 2011.
Oh, man.
Playing for Keeps in 2012, Killing Season in 2013. Have you ever seen Killing Season, by the way, which is John Travolta versus Robert De Niro? Is like one's a Russian and one's...
Yes!
Dude, that movie's insane.
I actually really like that movie.
It's good.
But it is way out there.
It's out there. No, it's way out
there.
there.
I actually really like that movie.
Then goes on to shoot The Expendables 3 in 2014, Gods of Egypt, Roots remake, All Eyes on Me, The Bad Seed remake, A Dog's Way Home, The Right Stuff, Peter Rabbit 2, The Runaway, and Time Traveler's Wife in 2022.
Okay.
Moving on down to our cast, we have Mr. Christian Slater returning to the program from Heathers, who plays Tom in this film.
Yes. And this was at his... Would you say this is at his most Christian or his most Slater?
Probably his most Slater.
Yeah, I would... I would have to agree.
So he got 143 credits, just to review a few. We got Legend of Billie Jean in 85, The Name of the Rose, Tucker, The Man in His Dream, Heathers in 88, Gleaming the Cube in 89, which I keep kicking around if that would be an episode or not.
I don't know if I've seen.
You haven't seen Gleaming the Cube, where his
so.
stepbrother gets murdered for the wrong reasons, and he's a skateboarder.
What are the right reasons?
The right reasons, hard to say. Gleaming the Cube is really hard to find, for one, and I looked into a DVD of it a while back at my old FYE, but it's not a good movie, but it's entertaining.
Okay.
The Wizard 89, Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, Young Guns 2, Pump Up the Volume, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Mobsters, Cuffs, Ferngully, True Romance, Interview with the Vampire, Murder in the First, Broken Arrow, Hard Rain in 98, then goes on to do 3,000 Miles to Graceland, Wind Talkers, West Wing, Mine Hunters, Alone in the Dark, Hollow Man 2, My Own Worst Enemy, Entourage, El Gringo, Guns, Girls, and Gambling, Nymphomaniac, Ask Me Anything, Hot Tub Time Machine 2, The Wife, The Public, Mr. Robot, Willow, Archer, Blink Twice in 2024.
Yeah.
And most recently is currently on Dexter Original Sin, which I have not watched yet.
He's one of those guys I'm really glad got his career back on track.
Yeah,
because there was a hot minute there where he was just, his name was Mud.
I don't think I included it in the trivia because it was kind of a downer, but right when this movie released, he was in prison for drugs.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, because this was a bit of his rough period right here.
Well, I know Fred Ray talked about when he cast him in one of his westerns. I think it might have been Bad Bloods.
Hatfield
that's
Hatfield's
Bad Blood.
Yeah.
I think that was the one that he was in, and he did it. He was great in it.
Yeah.
But Fred said that he had gotten basically a thank you, like months and months later, because he said that even though it was a very small movie and he only worked a day or two on it, that all of a sudden people were
back in.
They were picking the phone up and calling him because he was working
That's
again,
awesome.
and he'd had good. There were good word from that production.
That's awesome.
And I've always heard he's a really nice person.
Same. I've had a couple friends meet him, and I've heard he's a good guy.
So I'm happy. I'm happy when I see him pop up now in tons of stuff.
Yeah.
And he's been getting a lot of good TV stuff lately, especially with that Dexter series.
So sleazy and fucking Blink Twice.
Yeah, as opposed to the wholesomeness of most of the characters in that movie.
Moving down to our cast, we have Morgan Freeman, who plays Jim in the film. 149 credits on his resume, starting in 1964 with The Pawnbroker, 1971 Electric Company, Blade, Sesame Street, Brubaker, Teachers, Twilight Zone, Street Smart, Clean and Sober in 1988, which is getting a Blu-ray release my birthday month.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, if only you had an original one sheet for that movie.
I do. It still hangs by my bathroom, right by my Skin Deep original one sheet.
Pretty sure I found that for you.
You did.
Yeah.
You texted me.
Yeah.
Lean on Me in 89, Johnny Handsome, Driving Miss Daisy, Glory, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Unforgiven, Shawshank Redemption, Outbreak, Seven, Chain Reaction, Kiss the Girls, Amistad, Hard Rain, Deep Impact, Nurse Betty, Along Came a Spider, High Crimes, Bruce Almighty, $1 Million Baby, Batman Begins, Lucky Number 11, Gone Baby Gone, The Bucket List, The Dark Knight, Red, Olympus Has Fallen, Now You See Me, Lucy, Ted 2, Going in Style, The Poison Rose, The Comeback Trail, and most recently Lioness in 2023.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lioness.
And wrapping up our cast for now is Mr. Randy Quaid, who plays Sheriff Mike.
What can be said about Mr. Randy Quaid?
First off, 120 credits, which I did not realize.
Oh yeah, he worked like a Mother Hubbard.
He did for a bit, and then something happened. So he gets his start in 1971 on The Last Picture Show, then goes on to be in an episode of Night Gallery, What's Up, Doc, The Last Detail, Breakout, The Choir Boys, Midnight Express, Foxes, The Long Riders in 1980, which I'm going to take a second. If you have not seen The Long Riders and you're a Walter Hill fan, Western fan, any of those, The Long Riders is one of the best Jesse James the James Brothers movie that you can find. And it's got everybody in it, from David Carradine, Robert Carradine to, Randy Quaid, Dennis Quaid. Like, it's got a bunch of real life brothers in it.
Okay.
It's really good.
Nice.
Of Mice and Men in 81, Heart Beeps. 83, he does National Lampoon's Vacation, followed by The Wildlife, The Wraith, LBJ The Early Years, Moving, Caddyshack 2. And 1989 does one of your favorite movies, Parents.
And that movie fucked with me real bad when I was a kid.
Still pretty disturbing.
It still is, but man, the idea of your parents becoming the enemy.
Yeah.
Very scary concept. Yeah. I love it.
Another one that does that really well that I just actually saw for the first time last year was the Invaders of Mars remake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that movie is terrifying.
Yeah, but the difference, though, is Invaders from Mars, it's your parents have been replaced. As to where Parents, it's you're realizing who they really are.
Yeah.
So that's the extra.
Yeah. Out Cold in 89, Christmas Vacation, Days of Thunder, Quick Change, Texasville, Frankenstein in 92, which he did a Frankenstein movie, and I think it's based off of Dean Koontz's first novel.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to have to check it out. Freaked in 93, which is getting a 4K soon.
Yeah.
The Paper in 94, Bye Bye Love, Streets of Laredo, Last Dance, Kingpin, Vegas Vacation, Hard Rain in 98, The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle in 2000, Not Another Teen Movie 2001, Adventures of Pluto Nash in 2002, Grind, Home on the Range, Elvis, Brokeback Mountain, The Ice Harvest, previous episode in 2005, Blade TV series, All You Can Eat, and then most recently last year was in The Christmas Letter in 2024.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he ended up in one of those Christmas movies after the interesting time he's had.
Fun, but not real fun fact. Ice Harvest is in 05. Blade TV series is in 06. He does not appear in something again until 2018.
Wow.
So he had 12 years down.
That's nuts.
Well, Star Whackers will do that to you.
The 1992 Frankenstein, by the way, was made for TV.
Yeah.
And it's based on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And yeah, Randy Quaid plays the monster.
Dude. Okay, I got to see that.
I'll find it.
So, first time watching Hard Rain for you, what was it?
Gosh, it was I don't think I rented it. I think it was on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost certain it was on HBO.
Yeah.
And it kind of had everything I love in a movie. It had extreme weather, which I'm a sucker for.
Mm-hmm.
I love a good extreme weather thing. It had lots of gunplay.
Yes.
And lots of suspense. So I always had a fond memory of it, but it was also kind of a lot of those movies, especially because I was, very much growing up through the 90s. They kind of bleed together after a little while.
Mm-hmm.
So I had Hard Rain confused with other stuff a little bit.
That's easy. I confused parts of it with Dante's Peak at one point. No shit.
I could see that. Yeah. So I always remembered liking it. And then I feel like you got me to rewatch it.
Definitely.
As an adult.
Probably because I had that Blu-ray and I know we screened it one day.
Mm-hmm.
Had being keyword there. I still would love to know why the hell I got rid of my copy of Hard Rain.
I don't know, man.
I'm a terrible person.
I'm aware.
But my first time watching it, it was on TV because I would have been 6 when this came out. I remember distinctly catching it on TV at one point where they're going through the cassettes in the car because I remember that scene just being really funny.
Yeah.
But it was one that I saw it on TV. I never caught it in a complete sitting. I would always usually hit it up right around the time of either the church ambush or the cemetery ambush. And it was just one of those movies that I knew existed, but I had not seen it completely all the way through until I got that Blu-ray and then watched it. And I was just like, no, I really like this movie.
It's a lot of fun.
It's dumb. It's a disaster action movie with great actors. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of that.
No. And I mean, everybody's cast very well.
Yeah.
Christian Slater, great casting on that. Morgan Freeman, I don't think I've ever seen him do a bad job.
Mm-mm.
And Randy Quaid is perfect because the great thing about him is he can play straight.
Yeah.
But when he does, you always wonder, but is he going to get real bent?
Yeah.
And Usually he does.
That's the one thing that I will say about like his acting in particular with this movie is you see it definitely coming a mile away that he's probably going to turn, but he's still fucking scary when it happens, and you're just like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
No, he's really good at when he turns evil. He goes like he's really good at projecting sociopathy through his eyes into your brain.
Yes. No, absolutely. So the movie opens and we are in the town.
You know what he'd be great for? He should play Gacy.
Oh, he could. Yeah.
He would be terrifying as Gacy, although I don't think he's chubby anymore.
I don't think he is now. I think he's lost a lot of weight. But we are in the town of Huntingburg, Indiana, and it has been a heavy rainstorm. They've been collecting water at the dam, but it's gotten to the point now where they're flooding and they have to evacuate the town.
Right. And a real town.
A real town, yes. Yes, it is.
Although they don't actually have any dams nearby or anything.
So we meet Sheriff Mike, who is played by Randy Quaid, and he's closing down roads, telling people to flee. And we also cut over to the local bank, which I love the fake out of them with the guns.
Oh, it's great.
So good.
Yeah, they're walking through and they've got like the bag of money and the guns, and it really feels like it's a heist.
A heist, yeah.
And then as they pull back, they're going into an armored car.
Yeah.
And they're basically emptying all the banks in this town out.
Yeah.
Because there's hard rain coming.
Hard rain coming, yes, exactly. So they need to evacuate, and that is when, they get on the road, and we meet, blanked on his name, Tom, who is played by Christian Slater, and he is with his buddy Charlie, who is his uncle, and they are the two that are driving the armored truck. And so they are getting on the roads are flooded. We also find out around this time, too, that there are some locals that have also decided to hang around, one of which being Karen, who is taking care of the stained glass windows at this church. And then you've also got Betty White and her husband that are locals, and they are trying to booby trap their home, basically, because the last flood they had in like 73, they say, whatever wasn't stolen was broken just for the hell of it.
Yeah, and they're a great example of like the I ain't leaving my home, period, people. So and
Randy Quaid's just like, that's illegal, and she's like, yeah, we're still gonna do it.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Arrest us? No, it's a great touch, and having that couple in it is a very, at times, a very wonderful source of levity.
Doreen and Henry
movie really needs some levity.
Yeah, it does, because as you say, levity. We also cut over to meet Jim, played by Morgan Freeman, and he and his buddies are just in a car heading into town, but they've got guns, and there's something going on.
Well, it's Indiana, Maybe you could shoot the flood away.
Yeah,
right.
There we go.
Yeah.
So the town is evacuating. Everybody's trying to get out, including Charlie and Tom, and they end up getting on a road, and that's when they basically strike up conversation about, how long do you think you're going to be able to do this? Charlie's talking to his uncle, and he's like, is this job worth it? And, is the money worth it at this point?
Yeah, we're getting the heart-to-heart moment that shows that they're closer than just coworkers.
Yeah.
And also, though, Asner saying like, I don't know how much longer I could do this. I've been doing it so long. You're like, well, I'll just start carving a tombstone.
Yeah. Oh, I'm retiring tomorrow.
Let me just put a photograph of my beautiful wife and the island we're going to live on.
Hello, insurance? Yes, I'd like to cancel the life part of it.
Yeah. I just got a good bill of health from the doctor. Guess I'm going to live forever.
So they end up getting on the road, and they're striking up conversation, and then we start to see that the incline goes down a bit on the road, and now they are completely up to the tires, covered in a armored truck in this water, and they're stuck.
Yeah, the rain is coming in fast and furious, and they are they're going to have a hard time.
Yeah, they are going to have a hard time with the hard rain. So that's when Charlie says that he's going to call the National Guard. He calls somebody, says they're going to be there in 2 hours, and Christian Slater's character is just like, 2 hours? Like, what are we supposed to do? And he's like, we wait. We wait with this money, which we find out is like $3 million, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, something in that neighborhood.
So $3 million, they're sitting there waiting, and that's when Christian Slater decides to get out. He starts wandering around, and they're just checking the truck and everything, and they start to see lights approaching them from the other side.
Yeah, I'm sure it's help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The light shines on them, and then a shot rings out, hits Charlie right in the neck, and that's when you know that something is wrong. And it turns out that it's Jim, Morgan Freeman's men, and they're...
Wait. When he gets shot in the neck is when you realize
that's when you realize something's up.
Something's wrong.
Yeah, that's when you realize something's up.
That's fair.
Yeah, dead body.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't die right away, actually.
No. He gets a chance to suffer.
Yeah. He drags him around back, and the thing I love about this movie is everything from this point on takes place in knee and up water. Like there is really no dry spots.
One of my favorite things about the movie is that they use there's a statue in the middle of town.
Yeah.
And they use it to show you how high the water
is. Yeah.
Because at the beginning it's sitting there and there's just puddles everywhere.
Yeah.
And then as we go on, you start to see it's like covering his horse. I think he's on a horse. It's like it's a great way to like make it clear to the audience.
Yeah.
The rain
is rising.
It's hard.
And I mean, this is a small town, so I mean, you're looking at like a handful of buildings, and we basically stay in the center of town for the most part because that's where a lot of the action takes place.
Yeah.
So that is when he realizes that those guys are not good, so he starts trying to save Charlie. Charlie unfortunately passes, and that's when he decides to take the money and run.
I mean, is there ever a better thing to do when there's money than take it and run?
So, I mean, at this point, you got to do what you got to do. So the gang is chasing Tom, and he ends up taking refuge in a nearby church. He also sacks away the money, which we don't see him hide it originally. So we as a viewer don't know where it is.
Yeah, we just know that he knows.
Yeah, he stashed it somewhere close. He goes into a nearby church, and that's when he's looking around. He hears some music playing. He sees the lights are on, and he also sees that somebody is trying to pump the water out of the church, and he gets hit with a giant cross.
I mean, happens to the best of us.
So he's mistaken for a looter by Karen, who is trying to restore the stained glass windows in the church. He wakes up in a cell, and that's when he's like telling Sheriff Mike, like, hey, there's these robbers in town. They're looking for this money. They just shot my partner. And of course, Randy Quaid is like, all right, I believe you. Like, we'll go out and look, but just in case, we're gonna keep you here in this station while it's flooding.
Well, and the other cop who's kind of a hard ass.
Oh, Wayne,
he's the one who's like, we're gonna lock you up in case you're lying.
Yeah.
Which my first thought was, why would you put someone in a cell during a flood? But don't worry, it comes up.
Yeah,
comes up later.
So that's when he tells
like the water. Comes up
he
later.
tells Wayne to go ahead and take Karen back, or is it Phil? Yeah, I think Phil's the one. Yeah, he gives Deputy Phil and Deputy Wayne, and then you got Mike. So he tells Phil to go ahead and get Karen back to her place. So they get on a boat together, and that's when Karen takes an opportunity to push Phil out of the boat and steal the boat.
Yeah. Yeah, she does.
So that's when they also decide that they're going to go out and look for these guys, obviously, and she takes the boat back, returns it to go to the church, and that's when we also meet the town's dam operator, Hank.
He's a dam operator.
A dam operator. And he's
a character actor that's in a ton of stuff lately.
Yeah, no kidding.
I can't. I'll see if I can find his name real quick.
Wayne Duvall.
Wayne Duvall.
Wayne Duvall. Yeah, he was recently in The Hunt.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing. I think first because that's a great role.
Have you ever seen on his credits for The Hunt? His name is Don with 2 question marks. That's his
funny.
Credit name.
Well, because we don't know. I mean, is he Don? Yeah, because he was in. Oh yeah, and he was in A Quiet Place 2.
Quiet Place 2. Yeah.
He was in Werewolves Within.
Yeah.
Man,
oh yeah, he was.
Yeah, he's been in a bunch. He was in Richard Jewell.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been.
And he's again that good character actor that can play good and bad, because like when we meet him in Hard Rain, he's kind of aloof. I mean, we literally meet him coming out of the bathroom because an alarm's going off.
Yeah, I think that now, 20, almost 30 years on from that character, or from when we saw him in that, I think it's a lot harder to think he's a threat now because he comes off as just like a sweet old guy. Yeah, that's my
even
opinion.
in The Hunt.
Well, in The Hunt, I mean, we still don't know. If he was a bad guy or not.
Yeah.
So
the town's dam operator, Hank, is He's opening the spillway because that's going to release some water, but that also releases a large wave, and the town starts to flood a little deeper.
Whoops.
Oops.
Oopsie daisy.
And in doing so, Tom is still trapped in the cell as the water even starts to rise in the cell.
Yeah, and it starts to rise surprisingly fast.
Very fast.
Now, I'm not a scientist, but if he can't get out of the cell, I think he might drown.
I think he might drown, and also they might be at fault.
Well, yeah. They don't control the weather, David.
Yeah, but they control locking someone in a fucking cell.
I mean, maybe.
So Karen gets the church protected as best as she can, and that's when she realizes that the water is getting higher. She's worried about Tom and actually goes back to the jail, and by this point, the water is completely up to the top. He's trying to get his some keys out by a desk, which the desk starts floating and then floats by him so he can get to it. But right as that happens, Karen's on the roof. She opens this hatch where the cell is apparently.
Well, remember, he gets the keys.
Oh,
Remember?
he does, yeah.
And I love it because he looks at the keys and they both have big Ford logos on them. He goes, "Great, I'll drive out of here."
Yeah.
I love that reveal. That's great.
She opens the top of this hatch that just happens to be right above this cell, luckily. And so now they're on the roof of the jail and the water is still absolutely rising.
But one of the most suspenseful scenes, because he's literally up to this grate, this top grate, and he's trying to breathe, and then it gets past the grate. He gets a tube. I think she gives him this tube.
Yeah.
So he starts breathing through, but eventually the water gets above the tube too.
Really quick. Quick.
It's awesome because he's constantly like, okay, I can get a few more breaths, and it's like, no more of that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I can get a few more breaths. It's like, no more of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of two, in my opinion, brilliantly planned suspense scenes. The other one being later on.
Well, right here is one of my favorites. So they get on the roof, and that's when they also see the guys are still out looking for the money. So he sees Tom's gang and everything, or not Tom, Jim's gang. And that's when also Kenny, one of his gang, notices, who is actually the guy that shot Charlie. Kenny's kind of the wild guy because one of my favorite parts with him is him in the beginning talking about the money, and Morgan Freeman hands him that crossword puzzle that says, "If you talk about the money again, I'll kill you."
Yeah.
So good.
No, it's a really good one. The dichotomy of their group is really interesting.
Yeah, so Kenny spots them. He goes off chasing them, and by this point, Tom and Karen are out in the street trying to swim. The water is just rising and rising, and also now they see that a transformer is getting ready to hit the water as well.
It was Optimus Prime, if I remember correctly.
You are correct. Wow. So the transformer's getting ready to hit, and by this point, Kenny catches up with them. They're fighting in the water for a little bit. He even uppercuts him, and then they realize that they're in serious danger, so they climb up onto this thing that turns out to be metal. So then they have to move to the side of the building, which is what I love because it's just getting there by second and second.
Yeah. And Rachel and I had an interesting conversation when we were watching this because she was like, well, water doesn't conduct electricity.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, fresh water doesn't, but I'm sure this water's been polluted by all the stuff it's gotten in. And I looked it up, and yes, so distilled fresh water.
Yeah.
And generally pure fresh water is a poor conductor of electricity. But if you get any junk in it, even remotely salt, any kind of minerals, it becomes a better conductor. So
makes sense.
When he gets roasted,
yeah, he does.
It is somewhat realistic.
Yeah, because he's holding onto the metal, the metal thing, and then he also falls into the water, and it just completely bites it. But doesn't bite it just right away because his buddies end up finding him. They pull him into the boat, and one of the most chilling scenes that, every time I see it, I just think it's going to go a different way, even though I've seen this movie multiple times. Because Morgan Freeman's just like, oh, no, the pain's going to subside. You're going to be okay. Everything's going to work out. And you're thinking he's either going to off him or he's just going to toss him.
Well, because at this point, we don't really know what kind of crooks they are.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're kind of like mad dog killers, but they're not.
No.
They're really not. And yeah, as he's talking to him, he's like, you lying to me? He's like, I wouldn't lie to you.
Wouldn't lie to you.
And then he dies.
Yeah.
And Freeman seems legitimately surprised
and
upset.
Because he was, is it his nephew or something? It's somebody he was told that he would take care of him. Because he's even he wasn't even supposed to be here. He just, I told him I would take care of him.
Yeah,
so,
it's something like that. Yeah.
So by this point, Tom and Karen have made it off the streets, and they have made it into Doreen and Henry's house, which we find immediately because as they go into the window, there's 2 fucking bear traps just ready to go.
Yeah, and this scene is, like I said, the much needed levity.
Yeah.
Because as they come in there, it's just nonstop bickering.
Yep.
Why'd you come to our house?
They're hiding in the attic.
Yeah, with all their valuables.
Yeah.
And, why are you coming to our house? It's we thought it was abandoned. Well, all the other houses are abandoned, just not ours.
So they end up going in the attic with them, and that's when Tom realizes he's got to sneak out and try to secure the money because otherwise they're going to find it.
Well, also, they don't want them there anymore because he tells them what's going on. And you're just going to bring them to us. And he's like,
yeah.
And he's like, you're right. Yeah. I would just bring him to you, and he doesn't want to do that anyway. But one of my favorite scenes is as he's like, they can take our boat. And she's like, you're going to give them our boat? Well, then what do we have to float away on or whatever?
So,
but as he's getting on the boat, he's like, she's yelling at him. She's like, hurry up already. What are you going to kiss him goodbye? And he's like, you sure you don't want to come with me?
Yeah.
And I love that he thinks about it.
For a second.
Literally, it's like, hey, I'm going to take this boat and go try to avoid these killers.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That killed me.
So
thinking
he
about it.
gets the boat, goes out a bit, but as he is going back out, we see Freeman's gang, and they're like, okay, well, we know where he's going.
It's so creepy because as he goes by, we realize they're just hanging back, waiting
behind
for
a
him
bush.
just waiting for him to pass them by.
Yeah.
Which, think about that.
Think about it.
But it makes sense because in a flood, no one is standing still.
No.
You're not going to just stay in one place, especially not if the water keeps rising.
No.
Whether you're swimming or you're in a boat, you're going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, they just parked in basically a front yard, except, it's 8 feet above the front yard. They just parked there waiting, and he passes right by him, and there he is. But
we know where he's going.
But when they say, like, we should go get him, he's like, we can't just go after him. He might electrocute another one of us or whatever.
Yeah.
So now he's making it clear that, like, he's kind of afraid of this guy.
Kind of dangerous.
Because he didn't see how his guy got electrocuted. All he knows is that guys are turning up dead.
Dead, yeah.
So he's got this cautiousness that I thought was really refreshing.
So we see Tom go out a little bit, and by this point also Sheriff Mike has radioed Hank, and he's basically asking him, like, how are things going, and he's just like, it's getting bad out here. I don't know how much longer the dam's going to hold, and he basically recruits him to come join them because he's like, come out here and bring your gun.
Well, I think he said, I deputized you,
and that meant that you follow my orders.
Yeah, well, because I think that the original reason he deputized him was so that he could stay
in town
to stay at the
That's
thing, because the evacuation orders for all civilians.
Yeah.
So only the police could stay there. So that's why I would assume that's why he deputized him.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't be liable or whatever.
So by this point, Tom resurfaces at the truck, and Morgan Freeman's right on top, and they have kidnapped the elderly couple.
Yep.
But he also finds out that Karen's back in the attic. She was hiding. They didn't see her.
Yes.
So he's like, okay, well, now you're going to show us where the money is, or I'm going to kill these nice people, and it's going to be your fault.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. He's like, let them go, and I'll show you where the money is. So he does end up letting them go. And one of my favorite lines ever is when she's Betty White Doreen is in the back of the boat, and he's rowing, and they row away from him. She's like, go faster, I want to get away. And he turns the boat around. And she's like, what are you doing? He's like, well, you do trust me? Like, do you want me to go? All right, then shut the fuck up.
That's a great moment because Betty White's character, I mean, she's been early on, like when she was arguing with the sheriff.
Yeah.
She actually at one point said, like, were you even elected? Because I know for a fact I didn't vote for you, and neither did my husband.
Yeah.
And he's like, stop picking fights with him.
So Tom says he's going to reveal to them where the money is, and by this point we have a little conversation between him and Jim actually reveals that they were the ones called by Charlie originally when the truck went out.
Right, and that's why there's no
National Guard
coming.
Yeah. He was in cahoots with them. They had been old working buddies, and Tom doesn't want to believe this. Christian Slater is just like, no, like, you're fucking lying. Like, he wouldn't do that, and he's just like, oh well. No, like this is the situation of things.
Yeah.
So that's when he was only killed because Kenny was not told by Charlie that was in on the gang. So Kenny fired a shot and killed somebody that he didn't realize was in on the heist.
Well, and now we know why after the shooting stopped, Morgan Freeman called out to him and says, everybody okay over there?
Yeah.
And that makes a lot more sense because originally it felt taunting.
Yeah.
But now it's like, no, there was supposed to be a very simple transaction.
Yeah.
But everything got messed up.
So by this point, we have found out that Tom hid the money in the local cemetery. He tied it to a tombstone, so he dives into the water because Morgan Freeman's like, go get it. And he goes down there, and the rope has been cut loose, and the money is gone.
Yeah.
So
hate to see it.
That's when he resurfaces, and we see lights on the other side of the cemetery as Sheriff Hank and his cronies show up.
Oh, thank goodness. The law.
And they waste no time getting gunfire going.
No, they're ready to rock.
They are ready to rock. Yeah, and we get the first, like, really good shootout in the movie, which is in the cemetery, which, again, they're up to their fucking shoulders in water, swimming through the cemetery, doing a gunfight while they're in a boat. Like,
oh, no, it's slick as hell.
It's insane. So that's when they're ambushed by Mike and his deputies, and also Hank shows up.
Hey!
And that's when Mike tells him, because Hank's like, hey, what's going on here? Hank's got a really nice rifle, by the way.
Yes, he does.
And Sheriff Mike says, hey, you know that money that they're transporting out of town? We're keeping it. $750,000 each, so it's $3 million split 4 ways.
And he's like, all right.
So they're in on it now. So Mike is completely abandoning his town, and he is going after this money, and he will kill any witnesses in the way of it.
Well, and if you think about it, the old timers, the older folks there, like his character would be, and like Betty White, her husband, they remember the last flood.
Yeah.
So of course his first thought would be, yeah, the chaos of that last flood was so mad, like no one would know.
Yeah.
Like no one would be able to be blamed. It just would be one of those things you just write it off as like, it was a horrible flood.
Yeah.
But they also don't realize that the weather is actually getting worse than anyone could have imagined. And this is why I love natural disaster movies where the disaster is not the key element.
Key element, yeah.
Because the biggest folly you could ever make is not paying attention to the real threat.
Yeah.
And they're not.
No.
They're like, oh yeah, it's flooding stuff, but it's like, you do realize like the water just has not stopped rising once. This is probably going to be worse than
bad.
This is going to be so bad you guys should not be here at all.
Yeah.
This is really dangerous. And I love that. It's kind of funny because you know who like kind of mastered that element, that concept, that idea is George Romero.
Yeah.
Because the big thing about his Dead movies is you always got eaten by the zombies when you forgot
about the zombies.
That was the original threat.
Yeah.
And the reason for everything that's happening, the reason you're hauled up in a farmhouse, or the reason you're hauled up in a mall, or the reason you're hauled up in an aircraft hangar bunker thing.
Yeah.
It's all because of the zombies, but then you get so caught up in the human element of arguing and bickering and disagreeing and being annoyed because, you know, you're stuck with these people you don't like and they're farting and being annoying. And I love that. And that's one of my favorite things in this movie is that all of a sudden I realize like, oh yeah, this flood is dangerous.
Well, it's like when you put the human element in there of anybody that can backstab and go about their own ways and everything, and then you put the element of the weather in there, it just makes everything kind of go up to 11 because you just have people that are not paying attention to the situation focused on this greed, for example, here.
Exactly. No, I mean, exactly right.
Yeah. So we lose one of the guys, Mr. Mailer, and Ray are killed in the shootout, which he gets it right through the fucking eye.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Pretty brutal.
Really, really brutal.
And that's when Jim and Tom escape because they end up chucking a grenade over, which tips one of the boats over, and they end up stealing a boat and riding off. So they're riding through town with the guys right behind them, and that by this point also, Karen has been found in the water because she went back to the church. Randy Quaid's picked her up. He and his other guys decide that they're going to follow Tom and Jim, of course, and that is when Jim and Tom decide to hide in the church.
I mean, why not?
Oh my God, this is probably my favorite scene of the entire movie.
Yeah. No, this is where it gets real good.
So they're hiding in the church, and by this point also, Christian Slater's been shot, so he's got to find something to take care of himself. They have a little bit of a heart-to-heart about Charlie and everything, and he's like, Charlie wasn't a bad guy. He just wanted himself taken care of. And
he just wanted to cash out.
This was the way to do it. So he was going to retire and everything. And then we have Deputy Wayne, who decides to take Karen back to her house.
Yeah.
Deputy Wayne, who is played by, what is his name? It is Mark Ralston, who, if you don't know that name, he plays Boggs in Shawshank Redemption, the rapist.
I'm looking him up. Yep. Mark Ralston.
Yeah, Mark Ralston plays Boggs, and he also plays Wayne in this movie. So he takes Karen back to her house because he's always kind of had a thing for her.
People would probably mostly know him from Saw 5.
Saw 5, yeah.
And 6.
Yeah. But he handcuffs Karen to her own banister. And keep in mind, again, the flood is still going. There is water inside her house, but it hasn't gotten serious yet.
Yes. Yeah.
But he handcuffs her to the banister, and he starts spouting off about a Dear Penthouse letter and just really nasty stuff. The power goes out. He lights a candle, and he's basically getting ready to rape her, but she ends up getting a Swiss Army knife and stabbing him right in the back of the fucking head.
Yes. And this is where we lead into what I think is the other best suspense piece. I mean, there's a lot of great moments with standoffs and action, but now she is handcuffed to a banister and the water is rising.
Yeah.
And this was so well thought out because a banister has every maybe 3 feet a support, so the banister doesn't fall. You can lean on it.
Yeah.
So now, as the water's rising, her only option is to take her Swiss Army knife and unscrew each of the connections. So every time she's about to drown, she gains 3 feet.
Yeah.
And then has to do
work
it again.
up to the top.
And then has to go to 3. But then when she finally does get to the top, now there's nowhere else to go.
Well, and we should also mention that when Wayne got stabbed in the back of the head, he went and drew his gun, tried to fire at her, missed her luckily, but also has the keys on his belt for the cuffs.
Right.
So she's stuck, and his body's floating out in front of the house right now at this point.
Yeah, he would have been too far away even if he wasn't floating.
So she's trying to work up the banister. By this point, we also see that Sheriff Mike and Hank have found them in the church, and they're throwing Molotov cocktails into the church on top of the church, but it's so wet, nothing's catching.
Which is hilarious that they're using fire in a rainstorm, and a flood. Yeah.
And that's when they decide to completely run their boats through the stained glass windows of the church, entering at the exact same time.
That's what I was about to mention. Is the best part of that isn't that they go through the stained glass; it's that they do it in perfect synchronization.
Yes.
So they punch through these giant stained glass windows, huge shattering, splashing, epic as fuck.
Oh yeah. And so by this point, we've got Deputy Phil, we've got Sheriff Mike and Hank, and they are all in the church, and we don't see any sign of Tom or Jim, and then both of them rise out of the water like any good action movie and just start laying fucking waste.
Or like one of the greatest action movies, Missing in Action. Actually, was that in 2?
I think it was 2, yeah. Or no, that's
one.
Well,
it was 1, which was 2.
2, yes, yes.
Yeah, no, that's one of the greatest moments in cinema history when Chuck Norris just rises up out of the water with a giant machine gun.
What I love is like Morgan Freeman rises out with 2 pistols and is just laying waste, but you get pistol POV for a second.
Yeah,
and it just feels like a 90s first-person shooter, which I love.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great touch.
Yeah, so they're into a firefight for a little bit, and then they all stop because something starts happening, which would be the alarm from the dam.
Which means the dam is about to overflow.
The dam is about to give.
Yeah, and that's very bad.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you give a dam, you set that one up, you little bastard.
That was good.
No, but this is again what I was talking about of the ignoring the real threat.
Yeah, yeah.
Because no matter how tough you are, no matter how smart you are as a crook, this is a natural disaster.
This will kill you. This will kill you and not have a second thought.
Yeah. Well, there is no thought at all.
No.
That's the thing, is Mother Nature could give a crap.
Yeah.
So I love that moment where it happens, because then they're just kind of like, what does that mean? It was like, it's going to be bad.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. So the dam alarm's going off, and he's like, how much time do we have, Hank? And Hank's like, not much. He's like, it's old. It's going to go.
Yeah, and that's the guy who was keeping up with the dam.
Up with
so
it,
he would know.
Yeah. So Sheriff Mike is like, all right, boys, drop your guns. Then this is what we're going to do. You're going to give me a couple bags of money, and we're all going to go our separate ways. But
yeah, he says, I'll just take a couple of those. I'm not greedy.
Yeah, Jim is not having it. He's like, no, because the whole movie, Morgan Freeman has said he is here for the money. He doesn't care about anybody.
Anything else but money.
I'm here for the money. So he's like, no, we're not doing it. And he's just like, oh, come on, are you really going to let this go? And then all of a sudden, that is when the Tom decides that he's going to save Karen, so he rides out on the one boat.
Well, you forgot though. One of the cop guys was injured.
Yeah.
And he was like kind of left in the water hurting and stuff.
You've got Hank and Deputy Phil have Christian Slater both on their barrels.
Right.
And that's when Phil can't do it, so then Hank shoots him and goes wuss, falls into the water. And that's when he's like, well, where's Karen? And Mike won't tell him, and that's when
he says he'll tell him once you give us the money.
Yeah, and that's when Phil floats by, and he's just like, she lives on Boyd Street, 2nd floor, big house.
Yeah, he says like blue siding, all this stuff, and that's a great moment too, where he's like, that I don't care about any of this.
I don't care about this. I'm dying,
and I didn't sign up for any of this. I didn't come here to friggin'. Yeah.
So that is when, like I said, Tom rides off to go save Karen, and that at this point, Mike and Jim are kind of at a standstill, and Mike puts down his gun, Jim puts down his gun, but that's only when Mike goes into the water, pulling a revolver out of his shoe and says, you should have killed me when you had the chance, and shoots Jim out of the boat, steals the boat.
Yes.
And rides out of the church. So now Jim and Phil are still in the church, and Mike and Hank escape in the boat. Hank is looking, or the alarm stops, and that's when we start to see that the dam is breaking.
Yeah, and it's awesome.
It's awesome. There is a huge wave coming from them as they ride out of this church, and even Hank's like, hey man, go faster. And he's like, all right, I will. Pushes Hank out of the boat.
Yeah, he's like, we gotta go faster.
Yeah.
He's like, you're right. And he just pushes him out. I love that not only does he push him out of the speedboat, but then he hits a pole.
Yeah, hits a pole, and he grabs onto the pole, but then the water keeps going. So then Hank gets pushed into this alley, which also then breaks free of this fucking propane tank.
Yes.
That ignites, goes shooting right at him, and another great explosion.
An excellent explosion.
And I love it because his hat lands in the water toasted.
Yeah.
So Tom gets to the house. He finds Karen handcuffed to the banister. He's trying to kick it free, but nothing's happening. So then she's like, there's a saw in the kitchen. He goes to get the saw. Saw breaks on the first cut. So then he ends up just shooting it off.
Yeah.
because that's the only thing they can do. So
That's life in the big city.
he gets Karen free, and by this point, the water is up super high to the point they just climb onto the roof. But then the house foundation completely breaks free, and Karen's house starts washing away with the water.
Yeah, a lot of things are now washing away the water, like most of the town.
Most of the town. But so the house breaks free. They're climbing up on the roof of the house, and that's when Mike is just right there waiting in his boat and starts firing on them while they're on top of this house.
Yes.
So they're floating on this house as it's going through. Sheriff Mike's in this boat shooting at them, and we see Jim is off to the side in the boat that he took, and he starts hearing the shots, so he follows it out. So then he starts approaching Mike, starts firing at him. They have a firefight exchange. He ends up hitting Jim's boat, which then he has to completely just do what he has to do, which is completely accelerate it, ramps off the house. Mike is taking shots at the boat as the boat lands, but what he doesn't realize is as Jim launched the boat, the freaking engine and the propeller came off.
Yes.
And as he launched it, that launched off too and hits killer crocodiles Sheriff Mike.
The boat just barely misses him, and he's like, and then the engine clobbers
hurtles
and
right at him.
It's brutal.
Well, I said killer crocodile because remember that's how they defeat the crocodile at the end of Killer Crocodile.
I do love me some Killer Crocodile.
If dear listener, viewer, if you have not seen Killer Crocodile, which was beautifully released 1 and 2 through Severin several years ago on Blu-ray, do it. Just
think that's
treat
on
yourself.
Tubi.
It's on Tubi. It's on Vudu. Treat
That's
yourself.
a great example of just a bonkers Italian exploitation movie.
So Sheriff Mike is knocked in the water, and he pops up bloody at this point, and he's trying to grab a bag of money, but also Karen is in the boat that he gets into, and Karen picks up a rifle. She's getting ready to shoot him, and by this point, Tom and Jim have found each other again at the side, and when he goes to bring his revolver up, she goes to fire the rifle. It's empty, and then Tom and Jim just light Sheriff Mike up.
Yeah. The final moment is just shooting an obscene amount of bullets.
In slow motion.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Of course. I mean, how else could you do
so
it? This
he
is the
is
90s,
just
kid.
Squib City holding this bag of money, falls back into the water, bloody, and everything's fine now because Indiana State Police show up.
Woo! Just in time.
And that's when Jim asked Tom if he's going to turn the money in. And he's like, well, I've got to. He's like, I have to turn the money in. And he's like, you better get out of here. And just as he's riding out of town or rowing out of town, he comes across the body of Sheriff Mike and just picks up a bag of money and puts it in the boat with him and rows off into the moonlight.
Yeah, off into the inevitable sunset.
So that's when Tom rejoins Karen, and she's like, hey, how is the church? Like, is the church okay? And he's like, I'll give you the good news. Like, there was some fire damage, but the flood put it out. And she's like, well, what do you mean flood damage? And he's like, oh, well, like, the roof
What
caught
do
a
you mean
little
fire damage?
damage. And he's like, oh, it's nothing to worry about. They seemed fine enough to drive their boats through the stained glass. And then they just freeze frame with them holding their hands up in the air. And that is 1998's Hard Rain.
And it is quite a little film.
Yes.
And quite a little piece of 1990s joy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's 90s as hell. It's ridiculous. It's kind of silly. And a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. So the budget, I think you already know, but do you want to guess?
Unfortunately, I think it was not 100, but it was like 70.
Yeah. $70 million is the budget.
And it didn't do so good at the box office.
It opens January 19th, 1998, so it was dumped.
Yeah.
To $8 million opening weekend, grossing $19 million worldwide when all is said and done.
Yeah.
So that's like a $50 million loss.
It's not great.
Not great.
No.
So shot in Huntington, Indiana. There is no major river or dam nearby, but there are 2 reservoirs that near the town, plus a $6 million set and aircraft hangar that was done in Palmdale, California.
Yeah, and that was one of the first things when I was rewatching it, I was thinking about was, I was like, I'm gonna guess this was all. I mean, all the big flood scenes were done in a studio, and actually one of the first things I thought was like, well, I mean, they could go like the Abyss and just rent an aircraft carrier or aircraft hangar.
Yeah,
and they did,
and
it makes sense because I mean, the amount of water, the amount of being wet, would be so unpleasant.
Production of the film was a collaborative effort among numerous film studios, one of which was British Broadcasting Corporation. Christian Slater himself served as co-producer. At one point, John Woo was attached to direct this film, and he left to direct Face Off instead, and the project was then taken over by Mikael Salomon.
I could see that being a John Woo production initially, for sure.
At the time of filming, the movie had the largest painted scenic background ever used in a film.
I believe that too.
Yeah. Was originally titled The Flood, but was changed because the filmmakers didn't want audiences to assume it was primarily a disaster movie.
Yeah, I agree. The Flood would make it sound like it was all about the flood. I think Hard Rain is a solid
title.
A solid title that kind of tells you there's a little more going on.
Director Mikael Salomon was hired to direct his film based on his work on James Cameron's grueling filming of The Abyss, in which most of the sets were in underwater tanks, much like this film required.
Misery.
Oh, yeah.
It's misery.
If you haven't watched the behind the scenes of The Abyss, it's sad.
I mean, the actors are just flat out there like, this was really awful.
Yeah. Christian Slater's contract for this film stated his body temperature should not be allowed to drop more than 0.1 degrees. To accommodate this, all fake rain was kept at 1 degree above body temperature. Because of this, the film's heating budget was almost triple the special effects budget.
God damn. That, my friends, that's called having a really good attorney.
Yeah.
That you may put in the contract your body temperature can't drop. He must have worked with water before.
He had to have.
Or heard the nightmare stories from The Abyss.
That's possible.
Or some of those, because that's a fascinating demand.
Yeah.
But honestly, I bet everybody was thankful.
Oh, I'm sure.
Although it must have been weird to have like that much water and it was like bath water warm.
I just think it's insane to think that this is 1 year before Titanic.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Executives were so fearful of an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease while filming that they insisted all pipes used for water effects were fully flushed every hour. Technical crew tried to inform execs that the pipes were technically being flushed continually by the flow of water. It fell on deaf ears, and the resulting insistence to pause production hourly made the movie go over budget by $50 million and completed 16 months late. There was no true risk of Legionnaire's disease.
Wait, 50?
$50 million.
That doesn't make any sense.
It says that's IMDb says.
50 million doesn't make any sense. I mean, because if the movie had a $70 million budget, that they would never try to make that movie for 20.
No,
that sounds. I mean, I believe even maybe $1 million or $2 million. Even that, I don't know. That's
IMDb for you.
Yeah, that one sounds a little scurrilous. 50 million's an insane amount of money.
Yeah,
like. I feel like nobody would have ever worked again, but I don't know.
According to writer Graham Yost, producer Mark Gordon, and he briefly considered the film as a potential sequel to Speed. The studio wasn't interested in a story so disconnected from the first film. They decided to move on with Christian Slater and Minnie Driver playing new characters instead of Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock reprising their roles. Reprising their role.
So they were like, we don't want it to be so far from the original premise, you know. Anyway, cruise control.
How can the same thing happen?
Oh my God, I love that. That's one of the best parts of Die Hard 2.
The producers wanted to hire Oscar winner Jerry Goldsmith to write the film's score, but could not afford his salary. Christopher Young, from Urban Legend, lobbied hard to get the job and ultimately got it.
He did a good job. I will say, had they gotten Goldsmith?
Oh, yeah.
If they had gotten him, though, I do think it would have been very memorable.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he would do a great job. He was one of the greatest composers of all time. But like his kind of sentimental swells and stuff, I don't know.
It's hard to say.
I'm really, that makes me curious.
And finally, according to Morgan Freeman, his character was supposed to die in the end of the original cut, but producers changed it after a negative test audience screening. Morgan Freeman commented on his character surviving in reshoots. I played a bad guy in a movie and they showed it to an audience. And we're letting an audience tell us what to do now? You know, an audience said, well, I don't want him. Morgan can't die. And I was a thief. He should get some money. We went back into the studio and reshot it so that I didn't die. And I did get some money.
Now, I overall agree with Morgan Freeman on many things.
Yeah.
But especially in many ways that. But it's not like the movie wasn't setting up he had like a heart of gold.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't turn out to be like Hans Gruber or something.
I mean, he didn't even fire a single shot like into any of our any of our heroes.
Yeah, but I mean, one of the big twists is that he's not really that bad of a guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that in that case, the audience being like, I don't like this tragic ending for him because he wasn't that bad of a guy. I could see it. I see what they're going for. Plus, you know, if they have to make up a 50 million over, I feel like that would be more than almost any film has ever gone over budget in history.
I would think. I mean, Bonfire of the Vanities is up there, though. I will say that.
Now I'm very curious.
So what are your final thoughts on 1998's Hard Rain?
Oh, man. I mean, well, before we give our thoughts.
Oh, yes. Oh, my.
Should we check in?
How could I forget that we have to check in with the greats Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel?
Yes. Let's see.
Hips all wrinkled up. Morgan Freeman looks way too smart to continue trying to pull off an impossible job under deadly conditions. I mean,
so
after
ridiculous.
about an hour of that, wouldn't you just say, I'm just going to go to dry land and check into a nice motel, get a warm shower.
The plot is ridiculous. That's where this falls down. It's
How?
stupid.
How
makes
is it
no
ridiculous?
sense. And these are good actors in this thing. Why
Yes, they are.
can't they read a script? This is not a close call. This is a very bad screenplay.
Maybe it was positioned as a big action picture with a big payday, and they thought, well, it might turn out
I do
okay.
think there's
Here's
some
the key
truth to
story.
that.
No, there
though.
absolutely is.
Attending the
Yeah.
Chicago Bulls Houston Rockets game. One of the players, Matt Bullard, comes over during the game and says to me, he says, "Did you see Hard Rain?" I said, "Yes, it stinks." He says, "Yeah, we saw it. It's awful." Well, Matt, our show plays in Houston on Channel 11, KHOU, just after midnight on Saturday. It'd take a triple overtime game to keep you away from our show. Channel 11 in Houston, Matt. This is why we exist.
Try to keep Matt
This
out of
is
those
why
bad
we
movies.
exist.
Later in the show,
Wow.
Jesus.
I mean, I guess fair enough.
Yeah.
I do enjoy occasionally peeking at what they said. Now, I will say, time has been kind to
Oh,
Hard Rain.
absolutely.
Without a doubt. So, but I can't give it a rent it.
Mhm.
I got to give it a stream it. I think it's your best bet is to watch it for free.
That's fair.
Free with ads. It's on Pluto right now, which is a great way to watch it with ads.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend sitting down and watching it. Now, if the 90s is your comfort food,
Mhm.
then you probably want to own it.
Yeah.
Or you probably should desperately see it.
I really hope we get a 4K of it soon, because this just feels like one that Paramount would absolutely put out again.
Yeah, I could see it getting a 4K. I mean, it's got an all-star cast, and like I said, it's aged well.
Yeah.
So
And it has a Jars of Clay song at the end, as Rachel pointed out.
apparently it does.
But yeah, I'm actually going to give it a rent it. I personally think it's a lot of fun. If you're looking for that dumb action movie that you can sit down with your friends in a 6-pack or just have a good time on like a Saturday night, this is like the perfect movie.
Oh, it's totally a pizza movie with friends for sure. No, I couldn't agree more.
It's insane. The action is nuts. The performances are great. And I mean, you don't realize the lengths this movie's going to go to be like, holy shit.
Yeah, no, it does. And I really cannot overstate. There are some great suspense moments. And I really think that jail cell one and the chain and the handcuff to the banister are like really, really,
they're up there.
Well, and they're really inspired,
Yeah.
especially the banister. Because, I mean, really, you would have to come up with that.
Yeah.
You would have to look at a banister and just go, oh, yeah, there's a stop every.
Mhm.
Oh, man, if you were stuck to that, you would have to save yourself again and again and again. It's just a great and inspired piece of filmmaking.
Yeah.
So I've got to give big props to that.
All right. So we always like to end the show with a couple recommendations. My first one for this week is 2018's The Hurricane Heist, currently available on Peacock, Plex, Prime, Roku, and Tubi. Thieves attempt a massive heist against the U.S. Treasury as a Category 5 hurricane approaches one of its mint facilities. This movie is really stupid.
Yes. Like, considering what a Category 5 means.
Yeah.
Not very realistic. Like, anybody but then again, I think they were stealing like $100 million.
They were stealing a lot. But like, and this movie is, I mean, it borrows a lot from Hard Rain for one. But on top of that, the effects are the same people that do Fast and the Furious. So if you're going to go into a movie and think you're not going to see some shit from those people, you're insane, because Hurricane Heist really just packs a punch to where it's just like, they're really going there. Okay, they're really doing this.
No, I would have to. I would have to agree.
And then my second recommendation, it's going to be a little difficult for you to find unless you want to buy a Blu-ray, but this was one that you and I watched just sporadically one moment because I had bought the Blu-ray over. I think we watched this the same night as we watched Pray for Death, which is 1991's The Taking of Beverly Hills.
God, that movie's nuts.
Currently available on Kino Lorber Blu-ray, a group of embittered ex-cops use a chemical spill to raid the banks and homes of Beverly Hills, is the synopsis. But the one thing it leaves out is there's, of course, one man who's not going to stand for that, who may just happen to live in Beverly Hills as this occurs.
I freaking love that.
No,
movie.
this movie is insane. Taking of Beverly Hills, I cannot recommend enough. If you can get a hand on it, then absolutely do it. And if you do watch it, please write into the show, because I would love to hear your thoughts on this batshit insanity of a movie.
I want to mention, by the way, I got curious about movies that went the most over budget.
Mm-hmm.
Another film that dealt with water, Waterworld.
Waterworld.
Went
Oh, yeah.
$75 million. over budget.
But then it actually was somewhat of a hit because of video. That's the one thing that a lot of people forget. They're all is like a huge box office bomb, but like video killed.
Oh, well, and I'm not even talking about box office. I'm just talking about like it went over budget by $75 million against a $100 million budget. And apparently Titanic had a $100 million budget and went $100 million over budget, but it didn't matter. Nobody cared.
No, nobody cared.
Because it was an insanely successful film.
So what's your recommendation, sir?
Oh, goodness. Well, I went with something. I didn't go with the weather thing because we're talking about some of the best weather movies this whole month for April showers kind of thing.
Yes.
So I went with a movie that, to me, I think of, and I thought of the entire time I was watching Hard Rain, and a movie that is a lot better. It was a movie that, growing up when it was on cable, when it was on HBO, I would never not watch it. And that is 1996's Broken Arrow.
Broken Arrow. Great
Broken Arrow is a great film.
So good.
Starring John Travolta and, of course, Christian Slater.
Yes.
For those who don't know Broken Arrow, which is shocking to me, terrorists steal nuclear warheads from the U.S. military, but don't count on a pilot and a park ranger spoiling their plans.
Probably the movie that got him Hard Rain originally before he left it.
I would guarantee it.
Yeah.
And directed by John Woo.
Yeah.
Also written by Graham Yost.
Yeah.
Which, when you mentioned it, I was like, oh, yeah, because I'd already picked it. But that's a great one. Shockingly only available to rent right now. I'm shocked that that's not... the funny story is the last time I watched it was actually on this TV.
Yeah.
Like it was on TV.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, just like the olden days.
I was going to say, there's a Blu-ray triple pack that's like Entrapment, Broken Arrow, and what's the other one? It's Entrapment, Broken Arrow, and Speed.
Oh.
Or you can get Broken Arrow by itself. But yeah, that hasn't hit 4K yet, which I'm kind of surprised. It's got to.
It's one of those that sometimes the really big movies just nobody does anything with it.
Yeah, that's fair.
For a long time, you know?
Well, and I feel like Broken Arrow isn't talked about much these days, and that movie is criminally underrated at this point.
I remember, so I was a kid. I mean, I was 10 when it came out.
Yeah.
And I remember the big thing was a campaign to get people to know what Broken Arrow means. For those who don't know, Broken Arrow is government, military terminology for a lost nuclear weapon.
Yes.
And it's great because when you know that, when you watch the film and they report like, we have a broken arrow, they're just like the blood drains out of everybody's faces when they hear that.
One of my favorite scenes in that movie is when it's like, I think the first car chase between Slater and Travolta, and Slater is like on the hood of the car as it's speeding, and John Travolta goes, such and such, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, no, it's so
and
fun.
then he throws the gas tank.
Well, and John Woo, especially, I mean, because Face Off is a great example too.
Yeah.
He was always so good at letting the actors be wacky.
Yeah.
At the right
moments. Oh yeah.
Especially Travolta.
Oh yeah.
And that's why, I mean, his work with Nicolas Cage also, he was like, and now go for it.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
you know. I love Broken
So
Arrow.
good.
Broken Arrow is a must watch if you haven't seen it. And really, if you haven't watched it since, Blockbuster days, really good revisit.
Holds up. And also Broken Arrow was borrowed music in Scream for Dewey's theme.
That's funny. I love that.
Yeah. So do we have any emails?
You know what? Shut up.
Fair.
We actually do.
Oh.
We actually because we actually had to record these episodes very close
I was
together.
gonna say, yeah.
We actually have an email here.
Oh, baby.
And it's from Brandon Gore. Well, I don't know if he wants me to give his last name. I'll just say Brandon. The email gives his full name. And he'd actually been commenting on our Spotify, which you can comment on Spotify. I'll usually reply directly over there.
Yeah. But
he commented here, and I like the way his subject line is perfect. He said, I like the thing you are doing. I really appreciate this because I actually mentioned on the last episode that I really get touched when people tell me that a podcast I'm doing brings them the kind of happiness that podcasts have always brought me, because I've been a lifelong podcast listener.
Yeah.
He said, I have been stuck alone for a few days because of a screwed up ankle.
Ooh.
And the pod has been a wonderful tool to feel less lonely. I would like to suggest, you're going to love this, and we are going to do it.
Okay.
We have to.
Okay.
I don't care.
Okay.
I would like to suggest the return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, aka Texas Chainsaw Massacre
4.
The Next Generation.
Fuck me. Okay.
Wonderful movies that are movies that break your brain.
Oh, baby.
And then he put good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually a fan of TCM4, but it is the farthest from a TCM movie.
I mean, they're not even cannibals.
They're not even cannibals.
No, we may have to do that. That's a movie that I need to revisit it even once more because
we need to watch the alternate cut on your Blu-ray too.
I'm down.
Yeah.
Because the thing with that movie is it's so bizarre and so mindless in certain ways that its entertainment value's high.
Oh yeah.
And based on the fact that I consider Jaws 4 the most most entertaining Jaws movie, means I would be curious to judge it again. Because I remember after we rewatched it the one time when we rented it, I bought the Blu-ray immediately. I was like, I kind of love how dumb this is. Like, I kind of need it.
Yeah, it's out there. I mean, that's that. Brandon, we will definitely entertain that idea, and it most likely will happen.
Yes, and Brandon, we're happy to hang out with you,
absolutely,
talking movies and having a good time.
Yeah.
I also want to mention if anybody else wants to email us, you can either send us an email at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com or send a message to doyouevenmovie.com. We'd love to hear from you guys, whether it's to suggest a movie, to tell us what you think of our opinions of a movie, whatever it is. We'd be happy to hear from you. You can also leave us a comment on Spotify, or if you're watching us on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you're watching us on YouTube, please do subscribe.
Yes, please.
And if you're listening to us via podcast, make sure you're subscribed there too. And why not leave us a star rating?
Yes, please.
Ideally 5 stars.
5 stars would be nice.
I mean.
And if you want to come see us in person this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Which the first weekend of April.
Yes, April 4th through the 6th.
A few days after this has gone live. We'll be at the Cinema Wasteland Convention in Strongsville, Ohio, which is just outside Cleveland. Just outside. I'll be there vending, and Dave will be lurking
and drinking, shopping.
I was going to say sipping. I was going to be nice. But yes, Dave will be there. I will be there. And if the weather's nice, you might even catch us smoking cigars in the parking lot.
Be nice.
It would be nice.
I'm so happy that I have a room at the hotel for the first time ever.
Oh God, you're going to get so drunk.
No, I'm not. I might get high. I don't know if I'll get super drunk.
Oh God, that's worse.
It's not
so
worse.
So much worse.
It's not worse.
Guys, it's worse. Okay, but yeah, we'll be at Cinema Wasteland. Go to cinemawasteland.com for more information about the event. It's a really fun horror movie expo. Tons of guests to meet, things to buy if you're a collector of physical media.
Felissa Rose, Michael Berryman, just to name a few that are going to be there this time.
Oh yeah, I'll get to see Felissa for the first time since we worked together.
Hell yeah.
I'll see if she remembers me.
We'll see. I'm sure she will.
I know.
You made her laugh pretty good on set from what you told me.
I had my moments.
Yeah.
And is Lynn still going to be there? I think I still saw Lynn Lowry on the
I think she may have canceled last minute.
Oh, that would stink.
I can't remember.
She's a sweetheart, and I enjoyed working with her too. But we'll be there. So
yes, we will.
If you happen to be anywhere near Cleveland and you want to hang out with us,
let us know.
I mean, nothing would shock Dave more than somebody walking in and saying, I listened to Do You Even Movie?
Yeah, but it'd be pretty shocking. So speaking of Do You Even Movie, would you like to know what we're talking about next week as April Showers rolls on?
No.
Too bad, because this was your suggestion.
Oh, yeah, it's time.
Because
do you want to party?
Yes, I do want to party, because originally it was going to be Hurricane Heist, and you texted me back and you said, hey, what if we swap Hurricane Heist for The Return of the Living Dead from 1985, baby?
I mean, number one, it's an absolute classic, and a movie I haven't sat and like harshly watched. Harshly is a strong word, but like really like watched the hell out
intently.
Of it. I usually watch it, I just kind of put it on.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we're both at that level where we've seen it so many times that we can just hear dialogue and picture the scenes.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
But I have that brand new 4K.
Yes, you do.
So we gotta screen it in 4K.
And if you have not seen More Brains documentary, one of the best documentaries going in depth of a single film I've seen in a while.
Well, and not to be that guy, but read the More Brains book.
Yes.
Because not only does it go into incredible depth, but it talks about all 5 of the original Return of the Living Dead movies.
All 5?
Look, the chapters about Necropolis
and Rave to the Grave.
Part 4 and 5.
Yes.
It's better than the movies because there's so much that happened and so much that went on and so many good things and bad things that led to it being what it turned out to be.
I would go to lengths to say that even though I'm a little biased on this because speaking of Alice Cooper, Cold Machines, his song from one of my favorite albums, Brutal Planet, is featured in Necropolis. Necropolis is actually way more watchable than I remembered it being.
Yeah, Rave to the Grave less so.
Rave to the Grave, not so much.
But one of their marketing things was they filmed a portion of the movie in Chernobyl.
Yes, they did. Which takes balls.
Three of them by the time you leave.
By leave, yeah.
And Peter Coyote is just bizarre in it.
Yeah.
I do enjoy him in it, though.
But Return of the Living Dead from 1985, currently available on Pluto, MGM Plus, Tubi. As you mentioned, there's also a great 4K out. It's very easy to get a hold of, so if you haven't seen it, which I'm shocked if you haven't.
It would be shocking, yeah.
But we're getting ready to party next week, baby.
Oh, yeah. So make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcasting app. And also, please, pack an umbrella.
Yes.
Because you just never know when the hard rain might show
fall.
up. So until next time, we will see you next Drowning.
Drowning, hard raining.
Next
Do You Want a Partying?
Rain pun.
Next showering.
We're done here.
All right. I'm leaving.